They say hindsight is 20/20, and that is especially true when relocating to a new state. In this video, we're gonna talk about some of the biggest mistakes we've made and we've seen other people make when it comes to relocating to Vancouver, Washington. If that's something you're interested in, stay tuned. Welcome back to Living in the Pacific Northwest with Hal Byrd. I'm Hal Byrd, and in today's video, we're talking about the biggest mistakes people make when relocating to Vancouver, Washington. And if you don't know me, I am a certified relocation specialist. I'm a realtor in both Oregon and Washington and serve the entire Portland metro region and Southwest Washington. And Vancouver is where my husband and I relocated to from California. He's originally from Philadelphia. I grew up in SoCal, and we relocated up here 7 years ago. And this channel exists to help people who are in the same place we were 7 years ago. Nothing like this, like our channel and the resources we share and the ungoogleable stuff that we talk about was anywhere on the internet in 2018 when we relocated. And this channel is dedicated to helping you find your home with Hal in the Pacific Northwest. So if you are thinking about buying, selling, or investing in the Pacific Northwest, you can shoot me a text at 360-818-4438. And if you're just considering a move and you want to bounce ideas off me, or you want to talk about neighborhoods or if this place would be a good fit, anything that you want to talk about, all the way up to how I'm ready to move and I need you as a realtor, my Zoom link is in the description below. You can book a Zoom meeting with me directly there. So make sure you like this video, subscribe, comment, all the YouTube things as we get started. And for those of you who are just hearing about Vancouver and this is a totally new topic and you're wondering what is Vancouver, Washington? I thought it was in Canada. There are 2 Vancouver, Washingtons. We are just north of Portland, Oregon, over the Columbia River. We are in Southwest Washington, Clark County, Washington, not Nevada. And this area has become so popular for people to move to because Washington doesn't have any state income tax. We have a better cost of living than high cost of living places along the West Coast, like most of California. We also have beautiful nature, great community, and just it's such a lovely, well-balanced, high quality of life place to live. And I want to share some of the mistakes people make because so many people are moving here. So whether you are buying or you're renting, this video applies to anyone who's thinking about relocating to Vancouver, Washington specifically. So let's get started with mistake number 1. So mistake number 1 is assuming that just because Vancouver has incredibly close proximity to Portland, that is just Portland light. It's just an extension of Portland. That could not be further from the truth. Vancouver has its own culture, its own sense of community. It is a totally different city. It's in a different state. And many times my husband and I think about why isn't there more crossover, more reciprocity, more cultural bleed between these 2 places? But we have a huge river dividing these 2 states. And a lot of times that means that the people and culture that are going on in Portland don't make it so far north that they cross the bridge. Even though there are a ton of Portlanders moving to Vancouver, I made a video about that here you can check out. Vancouver is its own animal. It's the biggest city in Clark County. It's the 4th largest city in the entire state of Washington. And if we annexed all of the unincorporated areas that have Vancouver addresses, we'd actually be the 2nd largest city in the state of Washington. So it's its own thing entirely from a culture standpoint, from a local politics standpoint, from a taxes standpoint, from our schools. Everything is different. Aside from, I would say, the nature component, the physical beauty of the place, everything else is totally different. There's very little overlap actually, and I hadn't thought about that so distinctly and so clearly until I just said it, but there is very little overlap between Vancouver and Portland. So don't make the mistake thinking that you're gonna move to Vancouver and get a Portland experience because it's not really gonna happen. However, all of that being said, Vancouver does benefit from its proximity to Portland. That provides jobs to our community. It provides access to an international airport. We definitely get benefits of being a suburb of Portland, but we are not very influenced by Portland in my experience. So you can kind of take the good with the bad when it comes to Portland, but know that you're not just getting an extension of Portland. If you want an extension of Portland or you want more of an Oregon experience, you can check out this video that we did about the best Oregon suburbs of Portland. Mistake number 2 is underestimating traffic and commute times. Now, if you're coming from somewhere like I came from in Los Angeles, I lived in Los Angeles for 5 years. It's where I went to college. I stayed there for a year after graduating. Traffic here will seem like a breeze, no brainer. We were just meeting with some folks from Agora Hills and they were talking about a 50-mile one-way commute and how it takes him often 2 hours to get home in the evening. So that would be one extreme. But if you're coming from other places, and I just mentioned in mistake number 1 that one of the things Vancouver benefits from when it comes to its proximity to Portland is access to jobs. And so if you are going to be commuting over the bridge, I highly recommend using Google Maps, changing their features to depart at or arrive at such and such time, and you can really get an idea of what actual traffic is going to be like when you're going in and out of Portland. So if you're commuting, do not underestimate that because it could affect where you live. For instance, if you are working near the airport, there's tons of commercial businesses and job opportunities in and around the airport. And if you're gonna be there or if you're in the aviation industry, you may wanna look at Fisher's Landing versus Salmon Creek to cut your commute time, depending on, especially your evening commute time, probably in half. And so those are key things. You don't want to underestimate the commute times. Our traffic is not that bad compared to other large cities, but you don't want to underestimate it because when you are leaving Oregon and coming to Washington, there are only 2 ways to get there, the I-5 bridge and the 205 bridge. And an alternative to commute times is just to work from home or find a job in Washington, in Clark County. If you're relocating to Vancouver and you can work in Clark County, you're not gonna have a commute that's more than realistically 15, 20 minutes, 30 minutes if you happen to work in Camas and you live in Ridgefield. Like if you live across county, not even across town, but across county. So something to keep in mind, another benefit of working from home or working in the state of Washington is that you don't owe state income tax. Mistake number 3 is not researching the neighborhoods or thinking that wide swaths of Vancouver are the same. Because of the way that Vancouver was developed over time, you'll have a home that's like a old, 1920s farmhouse on an acre next to a small subdivision that was developed in the 90s, right next to new construction. We have a lot of very small neighborhoods and pockets and not a lot of master plan communities. So if you're coming from a place like Texas where you have these sprawling big developments with their own grocery stores and schools and pools and all these HOA amenities, there's not very many places like that in Vancouver, and the places that are like that are very small in scale comparatively. So you definitely don't want to assume that all neighborhoods are the same. Even in the neighborhood we live in, there's 2 different subdivisions and a few other small, even further subdivided homes where like a builder might have built like 5 homes or 10 homes. And you can clearly see distinct differences between those subdivisions. So you really want to research the neighborhood, the HOA, does it have what you're looking for? That's something that I think people are overwhelmed by. We're not a large city, but there is a lot of diversity and variety between our neighborhoods. Mistake number 4 is that people underestimate the cost of living, especially my clients from California. They think that because California is such an expensive place to live, that everywhere else is gonna feel instantly more affordable. And that's not necessarily the case. I've talked about cost of living on this channel many times. We do a cost of living video every year, and we are consistently above the national average, specifically for the city of Vancouver, in terms of cost of living, not by much. So most of the cost of living scales you'll see, they'll rate it out of 100, and the further you are away from the national average, like 100 is a baseline. So we're usually around 115 to 120 is our cost of living index. The things that I would say people find more expensive would be possibly healthcare, groceries, and then housing really depends on where you're from. If you're coming from Texas, the prices might not be that different, but what you're getting for the money is going to be different because we don't have your Texas McMansions. But if you're coming from California and places like San Diego, where there's a lot of like 2-bedroom, 1-bath, small homes with no AC, you're gonna feel like you're getting an incredible value for your money. So it really depends. But I would say don't underestimate the cost of living. Do your research. Let me know in the comments what specific costs you want to know. We also did a video about our utility costs. You can see all of our utility costs here that were averaged out throughout the year. So very accurate representation of our actual utility bills for someone who has 2 people that work from home in a roughly 2,000 square foot house. And I think an important thing to note is that it's not all down to cost. It's also about quality of life. So yeah, you could get a McMansion in Texas and have this big sprawling house, and you're gonna need it because you're gonna be in the AC for like several months out of the year and it's gonna be freezing outside. That's one of the number one things my Texas clients complain about is the climate in Texas. They're so over it. When it's hot, it's too hot. When it's cold, it's too cold. And they have much more extreme weather. Here, our climate is more temperate. And so yes, it's about the price and the dollars and cents of it all, but it's probably comparable or cheaper to where most people in the country live. And I think the quality of life you're gonna get is gonna be much, much better. Plus, if you're coming from somewhere where you're paying state income tax, you're automatically gonna get a pay raise if you're, keeping the same job and working remote and you're just moving from the Bay Area to Vancouver. That is an instant pay raise right there. And I would say mistake 4B is not knowing that our real estate market is very competitive. My clients coming from the Southeast, everywhere from Texas to Florida, right now in the beginning of 2025, those markets down there are mostly buyers markets, whereas the West Coast and the entire Portland metro area is mostly a seller's market. So we do have a competitive market in Clark County. It's very popular and we don't have a lot of inventory. So I wouldn't make the mistake of waiting too long to purchase if that's something that you want to do, because when we moved here in 2018, the median home price was around $350,000. It's now closer to $600,000. So while we haven't doubled like some places, it has significantly increased. And I think that trend will continue because of all of the development and the investment that's coming in on a large scale into our community. We can talk about that in another video, but that's something to know. Mistake number 5 is assuming that it is always rainy and gloomy. And as someone who grew up in Southern California that's very used to a sunny, warm climate, you definitely hear about the Pacific Northwest. It's always rainy, it's gloomy, it's, depressing, I guess. And I would say that for 8 months out of the year, you will have gray skies. These gray skies are not every day. So for instance, we are in the 8 months right now. Today it's March 26th. We are in the 8 months it's not sunny. It's going to be 77 and sunny today. It was 77 and sunny yesterday. Last week it was in the 50s and raining. You're gonna have variation even in the winter months, in late fall, early spring. You're gonna have a lot of variation. It will rain, but fun fact, we get the majority of our inches of rain at night. That doesn't mean we don't get rain during the day. It does rain during the day, but it is not this torrential downpour that affects your ability to go out and do things. And that's why people love the outdoor lifestyle of the Northwest. When you think about the Northwest, previously I thought, like before I lived here, and I guess even now, I think about the outdoors, the hikes, the beautiful scenery, the nature. And so if you're thinking about that and you're like, people do all these things, this outdoor lifestyle, and at the same time, people think it's always dark and damp and rainy. Like, how do those two things add up? The thing is, it's not always dark and damp and gloomy. When it's gray and overcast, it is a light gray, not a dark gray. And it's not like this dark cloud sitting right on top of your head. It is high and there's a lot of light being diffused. So even on an overcast day, you're still gonna have light come in. There's a lot of times when we're working from home where in the winter, we don't even turn the lights on inside because we have so much natural light, even though it's overcast. That being said, many people do experience SAD, which is seasonal affective disorder. There are numerous ways that you can deal with that. I think that people overestimate the amount of rain that we're getting. You're gonna invest in some good rain gear. You're gonna get a good rain jacket. You're not gonna need an umbrella. You're gonna get some waterproof boots. Sorel makes really cute ones for both men and women. And you know, you're just gonna get on with your life. It's not a life-changing thing. You just change what you wear. You might change the time that you do things. But for all of that investment in those 8 months where it's, you know, on the front end of those 8 months in the fall, it's gorgeous. The leaves are changing. In the winter, then you have Thanksgiving, you have Christmas, you've got New Year's, you've got all these end of the year holidays, and the new year starts fresh. For me, growing up in Southern California in a sunny climate, that time between like mid-January and the end of February is, if there was a time that I'm like, oh, I just miss feeling the sun on my skin, like the sun will be out, but you can't feel it because it's cold. That's the only thing that I would say is a challenge. And there's nothing I've ever done about it or changed my lifestyle. It's just, to me, those 6 weeks are like less enjoyable than others, but then we might get a little bit of snow during that time and that makes it fun. And it's, you know, there's a lot you can do. So take vitamin D, you can get a happy lamp, you can take a warm weather vacation during that time, highly recommend. Those are some of the things that you can do. And then this time of year, come March, everything's blooming and we have rain, but we have sun and it's warming up. And then the summers are absolutely gorgeous. And what we do is we spend our summers being active. We're out riding our bikes and going on hikes. Jared's done Hood to Coast and we've done Spartan races, and we just, you know, we fill our summers with activities, and we still do those activities throughout the year, but we really pack them in the summer. And then come fall, it's more of a hibernation, and that having that 4 seasons really creates a nice cadence to life that growing up somewhere that didn't really have seasons, it was like warm, 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 slightly cold, warm, warm, warm. I really like having that cadence to life. It feels very natural to the way that humans are meant to live, not to get too woo-woo. And I'm gonna challenge you to something, especially if you are watching our videos with a hesitant spouse. I challenge you to go look through our videos and look at the weather and the clues in our videos that happen throughout the year. We're not filming all of our videos in the summer, we film throughout the year. So I'm normally near a window. You can look outside today, you can see that the sun's coming in through the window. And we have driving tours where, you know, we do videos where we're out and about. And like, just look at the weather. That is a very accurate representation of what's going on with the weather here. And if you can visit, you know, visit it once in the summer, visit in the winter, just so you can get a feel for what to expect without anyone else's opinion. Like, you can come see it for yourself. And that brings us to mistake number 6, which is overlooking the local lifestyle and amenities. Because we're next to a big city in Portland where they have, you know, the professional basketball team, the Trailblazers, and they have the Timbers for MLS, and there's the airport and museums and different things like that. Portland does have a lot to offer, but Vancouver has tons to offer without ever leaving Clark County. We have the wildlife refuge. We've got our downtown area, the waterfront, which is voted one of the best river walks in the country. We've got various hikes, whether that's Whipple Creek or the Salmon Creek Trail or Burnt Bridge or Molten Falls, everything around Camas and Brown Lake and Lacamas Lake. There's so much to do and great amenities, from locally owned restaurants and craft breweries to parks and recreation. And you'd be surprised if you walked around and asked people who either grew up here or people who've lived here a while, do you go into Portland? So many people will tell you, I avoid Portland as much as I can. Like, it is very possible to live a full, rich, complete life right in the city of Vancouver. And while my husband and I love to take advantage of Portland and go into the city and do things, it's not a requirement. And so I don't want people to overlook that just because it's a suburb doesn't mean that it has typical limited suburb amenities and options. There's tons to do here, and you can keep yourself busy year-round just staying in the city of Vancouver, but also Clark County, Washington. Mistake number 7 is expecting to instantly fall into a new group of friends. Now, if you've been looking around different areas in Washington and watching relocation videos, maybe about Seattle, you've probably heard of something called the Seattle Freeze, which is, as one of my clients put it, people in Seattle are the nicest people you'll never meet. They are so to themselves. They're not very open and outgoing. And so a lot of people who are not from Seattle or from the Northwest have a hard time making community and connections in Seattle. And so that's where the Seattle freeze comes from. Down here in the southern part of the state, we are more like the South. And so I say that we have Southwest Washington hospitality, or a certain level of Northwest nice, which is me trying to brand our own Southern hospitality. But that's because that's been my experience, that people are very nice and friendly. But what you have to do in order to create that community or that friend group is you really have to get out and make that effort, especially if you are a homebody, especially if you get here and it's winter and you're just hibernating, like I was talking about. You're not going out and doing things in the winter, especially if you move here in the winter, but you need to kind of make that effort and you make that initial step. So when my husband and I moved here, we joined a group called Vancouver Run Grub Chug. And Jarrett had found it on meetup.com, which is still a great place. When we were in California, meetup.com was a little like, I don't know, it was like kind of hit or miss. I would say it's a very good website. Also, just looking for Facebook groups along the lines of things you're interested in, whether that's running, cycling, motorcycling, geology talks. But when we made that initial step to go out to our very first Vancouver RGC run, and it was their prom night. And so Jarrett and I were like, how prom-like are they getting? So what we did is we dressed matching in like workout running gear. But no, people were like full on in dresses, men and women, like suits. Everybody was like very festive and into it. And we're like, this is a cool group of people. And that's where some of our longest friendships that we're still very close friends with today came from, was from that initial meeting. And that turned into people inviting us to other things. So when people know that you're into something, you know, like, oh, you're into running, we're doing a Saturday run. Or when we go to our grub and chug part after the run, you know, you might be talking to someone and, oh, you're into, I don't know, reading fantasy novels, so am I. Or, hey, you have a dog, like, do you ever go hiking? We're going hiking this weekend. If you make that initial effort, people here are not closed off and cliquish. They're very open and inviting, but you do have to take that first step. And also give yourself a year. Anytime that you're moving somewhere, you can have culture shock. Even within the US, even just moving, you know, within the same state, you know, 30 minutes away, you can have a culture shock. So give yourself a year to really settle in and find your groove and feel comfortable. Like, give yourself grace in that way. That would be, I guess, now we're on to 7B of that mistake. Like, give yourself grace as you get settled. And so to round out mistake number 7, one thing to know here is that it is so much less about what you do for work, you know, for your career, than it is like what you're into. And that's what I find. I have friends that for probably a year or two had no idea what they did for work. But I could tell you very intimate details about their life, because it's so much more about the person, the quality. It's so much more about who you are and what you're into than what you do for work and for a living. People really don't care. And people aren't looking to constantly network. Like in LA, because I lived there for 5 years, it's very, let's do lunch and not mean it. It's, what do you do? Because I need to know if I can go through you to get to someone that I need to get where I want to go. It's very transactional. It's very surface level. It's very shallow, not genuine. And so everyone that I know in LA who has genuine friends, like, really covets them, because it's so difficult to come across that. Whereas here, I feel like we, just by making that effort to get out and meet people and just do things, really. I don't think we went to these groups like we're trying to make friends. We went to these groups like, we're new here, we want to do something. Like, we wanted to go running, and instead of just running the two of us, we went running in a group. And it became easier to make friends that way because people are genuine. And so it's very different and it's refreshing. And that's one of the cultural differences that you might experience living in Vancouver, Washington. And the last mistake that I see people make, and I kind of alluded to it earlier on talking about cost of living, is not understanding Washington's real estate market. It is different than other parts of the country. There are specific areas that are more popular than others in the county, even neighborhoods in the city of Vancouver. And so you don't want to bring your mindset about the real estate market from where you're moving from to Clark County and to Vancouver, I would focus on and work with your realtor. Hopefully that's me, but work with your realtor to understand what are the current market trends today. And this is also why it's important to work with a realtor, in my opinion, that's doing a adequate level of business. Because one of the things that I noticed about 4 weeks ago is that our market had shifted. And I noticed that because as we're submitting offers for clients every week, and I'm like, wait a second, this house has been on the market 79 days and it just got multiple offers. And this house has been on the market 98 days and it just got multiple offers. And the new listings that we're putting on the market are selling in 4 days or less than 30 days now, where some things were taking 45 to 60 days. There's been a shift in our market, and I can see that in real time, where I'm not gonna waste my client's time because I can make those adjustments and say, hey, this is what's happening. This house is likely to get multiple offers. Here's where we need to be in order for you to win this multiple offer situation. Or here's what we need to do to not be in a multiple offer situation, because not everyone wants to compete in that way. And it's useful to know that. And then come to find out now, like what I'm seeing in real time, my anecdotal evidence, because I'm in the field and I'm writing offers every week and I'm showing homes and I'm watching the market and helping my clients. We have closings on our team pretty much every week. And I can see those things in real time. And then the data follows it, like this Zillow map that talks about the heat map. And it's like, hey, actually the Portland metro market is a seller's market. I didn't need Zillow to tell me that. So the national headlines can give you a clue, but real estate is very hyper local, and you cannot rely on a national headline that says home sales are slowing and then come into this area and expect that you're gonna get below asking. The seller's gonna pay all your closing costs and you're gonna get all the repairs you want. Last year, that was more so the case. We were getting clients on average 5% in commissions between price reduction, repairs, and credits. And right now, as we're sitting in spring of 2025, the market is shifting and it's shifting fast. So you definitely wanna work with someone who knows what they're doing, because you don't wanna waste your time or lose a house that you fell in love with because you weren't prepared to do what it takes. Okay, I felt like I was lecturing you guys a little bit, which is not my vibe usually, but I am very passionate about getting my clients what they want. So we just covered the 8 mistakes, from assuming that Vancouver is Portland light, to underestimating the traffic, to thinking that all of Vancouver is the same, not researching neighborhoods, thinking you're gonna fall in instantly with a friend group, underestimating the cost of living, thinking it's always rainy and gloomy, overlooking local amenities and lifestyles, and not understanding Washington's real estate market. Those are the 8 mistakes. We personally made some of them. We see people move up here and make those mistakes, and we are trying to save you from going through the same things that we went through so that you can have the absolute best experience. If you end up deciding that Vancouver is the place for you and your family, we want to do everything we can to make that experience smooth, that you have all the information you need up front, that you have access to us directly through Zoom. If you come into town, reach out to us, let us know when you're in town. I'm not gonna lie, it does not irritate or irk, but I'm like, man, what a missed opportunity when people are like, reach out and they're like, hey, we were just in Vancouver last week, we loved it, now we want to talk about working together. And I'm like, man, I really wish we could have just met you while you're here. You took the time and expense to fly up here or drive down here if you're coming from Seattle or more north. It would have been great to meet in person. So I'm happy to do that. We do that with almost all of our clients that end up actually moving here. And it's great. So we're real people. We're here to help you, from the YouTube videos to buying, your home buying journey in the Pacific Northwest, to beyond with all of our client events that you can see here. We really love on our clients and create a sense of community. We just took 60 of our past clients to the Portland Timbers game a couple weeks ago. That video is going to be out soon. And it's just great because now our clients are making friends with each other and their kids get to hang out together. And it's so fulfilling, that part of our business. It doesn't just stop. Going back to what we were talking about, this area is not a transactional place. Our business is not a transactional business. As Jarrett loves to say, when you work with us, you don't just get a home, you get a community. So I think that's all for now. I've really enjoyed this video and talking to you guys. Until next time, ciao.